Everything, I gotta live like a king. Hey, catch this rhythm. You feel that? That's called playerism. I'm on the scene, a player clean, poker face, 4 queens. I got 4 of a kind on everything. Diggers living elite, I don't feel complete without kicking at my feet in a Rolls Royce every week. Baby, this is deep. Listen close when I speak. I need to at least, cause I'm too much. I'd be a fool if I love him. You'll be a fool if you trust him. Here with my niggas, we keeping it gangsta. Yeah, I'm a slayer, I'm just keeping it player. I'm fucking her now, we're man eating it later. That's maybe why he is a hater. I'm wearing all black like I'm being a raider. You talk to police, we call you a traitor. I'm running the city, they call me for favors. I'm running the city, they call me the mayor. It's getting political with me, my street presidential, she getting the... Quit banging my line, ho. Quit banging my line, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. Come on, baby, get a clue. How you do what you do? How do you fall in love with me, but I'm not in love with you? Peace to the saints! Peace to the saints! Peace to the saints. Somehow I enjoy the intro every time. We're back with another segment of trending news, and today's segment has some very curious news, and shout out to those of you who have sent in your thoughts, questions, comments, and recommendations. We did receive a recommendation via PayPal, a very fascinating piece of news. Talk to me.
Hey, before we get to that, Jamal sent a cash app. He said, catch the replay later.
Shout out to Jamal, and thank you to those who send in support for this particular segment. We do appreciate it, and we will carry on per your support.
And we have Ramsey sent in a PayPal. He said, if you haven't already, search Teacher Massive Breast Canada to see the madness happening. As an FYI, board is defending the teacher, not the students at this time.
Ay. Oh, let's take a look. It used to be the students that act up. Now it's the teachers. What can you do? May I acknowledge Neil comes in, writes peace to the saints. And shout out to Neil because we have a number of lives. I've seen that he always comes in consistently to support the work, and it really does mean a lot. So thank you to those who show love to those who show love to you. Now, this first piece of news, and we have quite a few pieces of news. I'll give you guys a little taste of the headlines, and if we're missing something, feel free to send it in, as Ramsey did in his case via PayPal. On the news today, we're going to address Mississippi agency ex-leader pleads guilty in welfare fraud case. Now, this is particularly funny because, I think they always say, it's these single moms out here scamming the welfare, but this appears to be an old fat white man. We're going to look into it. Ohio GOP House candidate has misrepresented military service. Oh, is he telling tall tales, is he? Saudi Arabia plans to send a female astronaut into space in 2023. Well, that doesn't sound very Islamic of them now, does it? Oh, everyone's trying to get along. Over 1 million Teslas recalled because the window can pinch your fingers. I imagine it might be more serious than that, because recalling 1 million automobiles is quite a bit. Also, Rosh Hashanah. What is that? Oh, we're going to figure it out. It is the Jewish New Year coming up. And also, I love technology, so we always have a technology and business segment. In the technology segment, we're briefly going to talk about what was seen at the Detroit Auto Show. Shout out to Detroit for still having an auto show. Arizona judge. Well, the state can now enforce near total abortion ban. Well, that's impressive. And, in cases of incest and assault, I think that, those are exceptions. AP News. This article is called "We Got Our Miracle, Freed Americans Back Home in Alabama." And I was asking myself, well, where are they back from? Turns out they were fighting in Ukraine. Wow, I didn't know that was our war, and I didn't know we were sending out mercenaries. Apparently we are. Now, there's a lot there. We're going to talk about it. South Dakota investigation weighs on Noam's use of state plane. Well, you're in a state like South Dakota, which is really one of the ones that don't matter. Why should you have a private plane anyways? But hey, I don't know. That's just me. Maybe these governors in South Dakota are more important than I realize. We're going to look into it. I always thought they were a servant of the people. Shouldn't you travel with the people? Commercial? I guess that's just beneath us, darling. Apparently. And of course, we were just blessed with a news headline via PayPal. Ramsey pointed out that there's apparently a transgender individual with prosthetic breasts. I've heard of prosthetic legs, never heard of prosthetic breasts. I remember when I was in elementary school, and actually not elementary, it was middle school. This one kid would always have this joke about, like a detachable penis. I don't know why he found this to be so funny, but I guess I'd be a prosthetic penis if we were saying that properly, right?
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so should we start with the juicy? Yeah, we ought
Sure,
to.
but before you get started, there is someone that said they're new here. What's the channel about? I know there are new followers. If you just want to share what your channel's about.
Yes, indeed. This channel teaches you primarily to master wealth and to master relationships, namely romantic relationships. So shall we say money and women most succinctly. But at the basis of mastering those things, you must first master yourself. And so I give you strategy on those two ends. And every now and then I'll talk about some other things, like in this case, trending news, might give a summary of a book and things that'll help you along. We actually have a lot more than most YouTubers, in as much as we have the Saint in the Center Nation, which is a collection around the world of folks like you who are official members and are ambitious about thriving in the areas of health, wealth, and relationships. And if you want to know more about that, I invite you to join our Patreon, which will give you access to our Discord, and we'll get you linked up.
Walton, I know you mentioned he got some stuff last night.
Oh,
He
yeah.
just got the white bomber, which
I have on the way.
Yes, yours
Yes,
comes
indeed.
tomorrow, and then 2 of the MDB label
Hats.
beanies.
Oh, the beanies.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about getting a white MDB label beanie. Indeed. So he beat me to that one. And
Got a red and a blue.
I think MDB label is starting to be my favorite designer, but I think my favorite brand is manandwomanbrand.com because of what it represents. This is actually an MDB label shirt, which I like quite a bit because it's a little bit groovy. You dig? This one is linked in the description.
Mel sent a cash app. He said, sending intuition.
Appreciate that, Mel. Thank you very much. First piece of news.
And G Money to Prince said, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints. Mississippi agency ex-leader pleads guilty in welfare fraud. Now, this is particularly concerning because, number one, I'm not into welfare. Just side note, I'm not into welfare. If you can't afford to have kids, don't have kids. And generally, you shouldn't have things you can't afford. Like, for example, I'd like to get the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. It's not quite in my budget currently, because I want all the additions. You feel me? Like, what are those seats, that options? The tailgate seats. I need the tailgate seats. And by the time you throw that in there, the car's over $500,000 once I get all the things I want in there. So I'm not going to get it. Just like if you can't afford kids, you ought not to have any. But hey, we're in a crazy world now, aren't we? We flipped it upside down from survival of the fittest to survival of the idiots. Now, Mississippi, you might know that's one of the poorest states in the union, always has been. And if Puerto Rico was a state, they'd be poorer than Mississippi, but Mississippi is pretty darn poor. I've actually never been to Mississippi, which is not a shocker because I usually end up in states based on business travel. Not a lot of business going on in Mississippi, apparently. And also I hear it's not terribly welcoming to black guys. Just what I hear here historically. There's a great movie called Mississippi Burning, classic. I think Samuel L. Jackson's in that one. You guys notice Samuel L. Jackson was never young? It's like he was never young. It's strange. Him and Morgan Freeman, they were never actually kids. They're like born 50 years old. Anyways, Mississippi agency ex-leader pleads guilty in the welfare fraud case. And I'll let you guys get a look at him because he does not look like the person we are all conditioned to expect to be stealing from the government via welfare. I'm not going to lie to you. My best guess, if you said someone's been committing welfare fraud, I'd imagine she looks like her name is Sharkeisha. But instead, it looks like this guy. Apparently, he might be the cousin of Mikhail Gorbachev. This guy has apparently been getting his theft on. But he got busted, and we're going to hear about it.
Daniel said, glad to see the increase in trending news segments lately. Hopefully this means the Saints are supporting it and that the consistency continues. Peace to the Saints.
Thank you, Daniel. And you know what? The Saints have been supporting this segment. As you guys see, I always try to And I teach business and I try to exercise a business mentality. And we saw that the Saint City podcast disappeared, even though people say they loved it, but people didn't support it. And so this one, people have been stepping up, and here we are. And it's always a pleasure because this information is good for your conversation, it's good for your life, and it's mostly good for your pocketbook. So we always going to make sure we can make the connection on how you can make a buck out of any of these things.
And Akeem said, peace to the Saints tuition.
Peace to the Saints. Thank you very much, Akeem. Jackson, Mississippi, a former director of Mississippi's welfare agency, pled guilty Thursday to federal and state charges. Oh, you don't want Fed charges. Side note. To misspending tens of millions. That's a lot of millions. 1 million would be a lot of millions, especially in a place like Mississippi, which has a depressed economy, like all the time, that were intended to help needy families. This guy's like the opposite of Robin Hood. Robin Hood steals from the rich, gives to the poor. This guy steals from the poor, gives to himself. Well, I guess that would just make him a politician, wouldn't it? I think that's the actual definition of politician. Curious. Anyways, this guy steals from the poor, gives to himself. This is part of the largest public corruption case in the state's history. Wow. And I'm just wondering why in this photograph he's walking freely instead of in chains. I guess they didn't want to portray him negatively. Curious. In federal court, John Davis, well, he's lucky. He has a very common name. So now he can go apply for a job after this. You won't find him in a Google search. John Davis pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy and 1 count of theft from programs receiving federal funds. In state court, a short time later, he pled guilty to 5 counts. This boy got a lot of counts. Let's just say he got hit with a lot of counts, okay? John Davis is 54 years old. He was an influential figure in this state before the scandal. He was also, whoa. Check this out. Davis was an influential figure in a scandal that has snared several people, including pro wrestler Ted DiBiase. We got pro wrestlers involved in this. This is becoming Jerry Springer by the second. Okay. Ted DiBiase, I'm going to see you, Hulk Hogan, in number 3 Battle of the Cage.
Okay, Justin said peace to the Saints, and Joseph said peace to the Saints, great value.
Peace to the Saints. Truly appreciate that. So Ted DiBiase, known as the $1 Million Man, $1 million scammer, apparently, whose Christian ministry, he's teaching the Christians, okay, was ordered to repay more than $720,000 in misspent welfare money. So the man is scamming religiously, and he's also stealing from poor families and doing it in the Lord's name. And he's a former pro wrestler. Who in the heck, you see me? I'm making improvements. Who in the heck is trusting a former pro wrestler to run a church? What has the world come to? My, oh my.
Keegan said, not that I don't appreciate the ism, but I like these streams the most. Peace to the Saints.
Peace to the Saints. And, I never really have a sense of what's most important. I can only assess it based on the data, the people who support the work and people who let me know. So thank you for that information. The scandal has raised questions about retired NFL quarterback Brett Favre. Brett Favre involved, good, everybody getting in, pro wrestling, pro athletes. And it's funny because these are all people whom you would think have money. Maybe they have talents of the body and they did not sharpen their business skills. And so when they got out of athletics or out of entertainment in their old age, having minds that have not been developed, they lost their money because they had $1 million, but they were not $1 million person. And now the quickest way for them to come up is to steal. That's what we're seeing commonly in the society. Stealing via litigation, suing people, stealing via false allegation, #MeToo, all of these different methods to steal. Where is the morality? They said, and also former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant. Wow. Ain't that a shame? Oh, the white man is down bad. Good Lord. As leader of the Mississippi Department of Human Services, Davis has had direct control of federal funds that were channeled to pet projects such as a new volleyball arena. Do people watch volleyball? What? Are you serious? Knock it off. A new volleyball arena at the university where Favre's daughter played the sport. I'd be curious as to what she looked like. Just side note, just curious. You don't have to pull it up. In state court Thursday, Judge Adrian Wooten asked Davis to explain why he had allowed the department to squander money for the needy. See, that's an idiotic question. It was because they wanted to make a come up. Let's not even waste time with that question. But you know what we really need to ask ourselves is, why do the liberals never like to talk about this? When you see government corruption in the order of tens of millions of dollars, particularly for programs that were supposed to support the needy, that means that they stole the money from a taxpayer like you and I, someone who works hard for their money. They stole our money. They said the government knows how to allocate it better. We're more efficient and thoughtful than you, no matter who you is. And then they're going to channel that through a welfare program. And then in this case, all the money was gobbled up by these guys who we thought were wealthy. They steal the money. The needy families never get it. In a proper society with limited government and a thriving civil society, wealthy people, we take our money and we see that there is a need in the community. Maybe it was expressed through our church or our civic organization, or maybe we saw it with our own eyes and we can allocate the dollar directly with no middleman, which is government, the middleman, which is stealing from you. And if you ever wonder, why do conservatives or wealthy people or successful people not want to pay taxes? Because this is what happens with your taxes. They're stolen, they're squandered, they're wasted, they disappear. Truly sick and sad.
Brittany said, peace to the saints, showing support for trending news. I enjoy listening while cleaning and meal prepping for my family.
Wow. Ain't that sound like a lady saying right there, huh? Sound like she doing the right thing. Shout out to her. And I appreciate that compliment. The state court charges were mostly tied to welfare money spent on one of Ted DiBiase, one of his sons, Brett DiBiase, who was also a pro wrestler. The spending included, wait for it, $160,000 for drug rehabilitation in Malibu. Wait, first off, it's funny how when you live a life devoid of morality, we always see poisons come into the life. Drugs, alcohol, intoxicants, prostitution, gambling, all of these different kinds of evils these people suffer from because they thought that money would make them invincible, impervious to the things that affect ordinary people. You must live with morality. That's why it's so important that we spread this ism, because guess what? The church isn't doing it. Your mosque isn't doing it. Your Catholic cathedral isn't doing it. The Pope ain't saying a damn thing. That's why we got to spread the ism.
Kevin said volleyball players got big booties.
Some of them do. I wish more of them did, but I do always appreciate the outfits. Shout out. You heard me? I might have to sponsor a team. You dig? I ain't gonna get into it. But anyways, so they paid $160,000 for this kid to go to drug rehabilitation in Malibu, which means he basically went to a country club filled with very attractive thots who have been living that party life in LA and Hollywood. I'm sure he was having a good old time, probably came out there with a couple STDs. You know, what can you do? You can't expect drug addicts to be responsible now, can you? Okay, so they paid for this guy's son's drug rehab with money that should have went to poor families. Well, this is evil. If there's a such place as hell, we're going to have this boy sit next to the furnace. Additionally, $250,000 salary. Yes, that's right. $250,000 salary for a job he was not qualified to do. Sounds like most politicians. Yeah, I can't see that any of them are really qualified. It's quite comical. And some of them are overqualified because they've been in office too long. See Nancy Pelosi as an example. The Republic was not meant to have people as lifetime politicians. Politician was not supposed to be a job. It was supposed to be a calling. Shout out to the Pelosi's who have made damn near $1 billion on your back through insider trading. Shout out to the corrupt politicians in America. We do indeed need a revolution, I promise you. $48,000 for him to teach Department of Human Services employees how to identify possible drug use by people seeking help from the agency. Oh no, this is comedy. This is comedy and hypocrisy all mixed together, and it's a real sad mixture. You're telling me that the government of Mississippi paid money to a man to teach how to screen out drug users so that they didn't abuse the welfare system, while he took some of that welfare money and gave it to his drug using son. This is insane. See, do we have the death penalty in Mississippi? Because I'm starting to feel like it might need to be. Can we get the guillotine back out? I think we need to bring back public executions. I really think we do. Plus, a lot of people don't have anything to do on Friday, Saturday night anyways, right? Maybe we should do it on Sunday, right after church.
They do have the death penalty, lethal injection, electrocution, and firing squad.
I'm going to need something more. Oh, they got the firing squad. Yeah. I'm a volunteer. I would like to, can someone submit my name? I will volunteer. It's a dirty job. Somebody's got to do it. Wow. $8,000 for him to stay at an upscale hotel in New Orleans. And I've been to New Orleans many times, you heard me. And there pretty much aren't any upscale hotels there in real life. Their 5 stars are not very good. And you'd have to go out of your way to find a way to spend $8,000 at a New Orleans hotel. I promise you. Anyways, $1,000 for first class airfare for Davis to fly to Malibu to see Brett DiBiase. We can't fly like plebeians, darling. Now can we? Wowzer. In response to one of many questions from Wooten, Davis and Brett DiBiase said Brett DiBiase was his friend. Davis also said he used, quote, very, very bad judgment in spending public money. Just electrocute the boy. I'm not about to go back through this because there's so much fraud in here that it just burns me up to articulate it, because I'm being stolen from. I'm being stolen from. You're being stolen from. We're financing so many things that are fraudulent. We're financing a foreign war that doesn't involve us and is only creating more enemies for us. We're financing a very large standing army, which appears to be incompetent because we haven't won a war in a long time. We're financing fraudulent social welfare programs that don't seem to help the poor, and in some cases encourage the poor to continue being poor because there's financial incentive. And we have a political class which is extremely corrupt. And when I travel around the world and I talk to people who are quite uninformed but think they are informed, whether I'm in the third world or the developed world, they say, gee, I'd love to get over to America. We have so much corruption here. I said, we do too. We do too. Don't think that the world is any different. The grass is not greener on the other side.
Kevin is back on Cash App. He said Mississippi executes people via pigs eating them.
Shout out. I want to be on the firing squad though. Doing the shooting, that is. Shout out to Caleb. He writes, the shirt is fire. I know there's something special about it. There's something unusual about this shirt. You're not going to see anyone wearing anything like this. And I think that's one of the main things I like about it.
And it's linked in the description.
Indeed. This is that's a sad piece of news right there. I try to bring a little bit of lightness, but when I say that we are in revolutionary times, I am speaking with great seriousness. When I say that we are building the Saint in the Center Nation, a global organization, we are. And it is necessary, because when you see this kind of theft, this kind of squandering, this kind of violence, this kind of moral decay, it is not only endemic to America. It is pandemic going on all over the world. This is the greatest pestilence that we've seen, and it is one that is largely invisible. Next piece of news. Ohio GOP House candidate has misrepresented his military service, which is essentially saying that a politician lied. That's almost like saying that a prostitute had sex. It kind of goes without saying. But the worst thing about it, and I figured this out when I was in government, I was a young man at the time. I was hopeful and ignorant. This comes with youth. And I used to think that politicians wanted to help people. And by the way, our political system in America is so contrived, and I think it's because they don't want you to be able to use it. For example, we know GOP means Republican, but does anyone know what GOP stands for as an acronym? Just curious. Something basic you probably should have learned in secondary school, right? Anyways, Ohio GOP candidate has misrepresented military service. Let's hear what this creative fellow has said or done. Campaigning for a Northwestern Ohio congressional seat, Republican J.R. Majewski. Wow, that's a name that's going to get you made fun of, isn't it? Majewski. Wow. I'm assuming he's Polish because of the ski, but maybe he's a Jew as well. Who knows? But I'm for sure he was getting fried in high school because of this. Mr. Majewski presents himself as an Air Force combat veteran who deployed to Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks, once describing, quote, tough conditions, including a lack of running water, I've experienced this, that forced him to go for more than 40 days without a shower. 4 days without a shower is vicious. 40 days, that'll get you beat up in jail. No, for real. Like, you might not know if you ever get locked up, your cleanliness, if it's not there, that'll get your butt kicked in prison if you ever just wanted some advice if you end up locked up.
Caleb just got the shirt you're wearing.
Shout out to Caleb. He about to be clean out here. Oh, yeah. And one thing I want to remind you guys of, for those who have been on sasmbrand.com, you saw recently we had the blue Letterman jacket. I said it was limited run. Sometimes people think it's a sales tactic, but I'm not in the fashion business. I make clothes because I like them. When I say it's limited run, it's not a sales tactic. So the extra large are sold out. The 2XL are sold out and the large are sold out. and they won't come back. So you can get the medium, you can get the small for the blue Letterman jacket. And if you browse deeper on the website, there's actually a gray Letterman jacket that I have as well that I haven't debuted. You might be wise to hop on that now before those sell out. Carrying on with Majewski. Majewski indicated that, the government indicated that Majewski never deployed to Afghanistan. Oh, he was lying, was he? But instead completed a 6-month stint helping to load planes. This man was a plane loader. Try to act like he was a real warrior. Ain't that funny? Oh, kind of like a studio gangster in the context of hip hop. This man's like, yeah, man, I was out in Afghanistan, you heard me? And then the Talibans came out, man. They had their hair wrapped up. I grabbed the Uzi. And it was crazy, man, because I'm busting off the clapper, man. Somebody jumped down. I did a backflip. I pulled a grenade out my armpit. I was just storing it right there in case. I put it out my armpit, threw it, blew up like 18 of them. Then I disappeared, reappeared, transported, did a teleport, and then... And, he telling all these crazy stories, and he was just a plane loader. That's cute. And he wasn't in Afghanistan. He was in Qatar. Wow, which is a completely safe, stable country. I've been there. This is a funny little fella. Wowzer. Anyways, he was in Qatar, a longtime ally of the United States, a safe distance from fighting. Oh, and you're dealing with someone who's a pathological, wicked, evil liar. To tell lies is human, and let us apologize when we make that error. However, to tell lies with intensity and to create fictions when you're talking in front of a microphone to millions of people seeking to represent them, that is pathological and evil, because you know that there are records that can disprove this. So you willfully did that and said, okay, well, let's see if I can fool some people. Wow. This boy is a nut. And what we've seen so far is all the people, the supervillains we've been reviewing have been white American men. And I don't say that to be racist, but I point that out to show that we're seeing a decay in their culture and in their manhood and manliness and the values of a man and the leadership. And it's important to point that out because America is essentially a country that was developed, organized, and led by white men. And as we see them declining, we see the nation decline in parallel. And we see the white woman finding more dominance. And that is also another indication of a declining society.
Kevin is back on Cash App. He said loading planes is still accessory to murder.
Oh, believe that. Oh, yeah, indeed. I agree with you there.
Justino came on a Cash App. He said, peace to the saints. Are you familiar with Seaman Mullen?
No, sir. Not presently, at least as far as I'm aware of. Majewski's account of his time in the military is just one aspect of his biography that is suspect. His post-military career has been defined by exaggerations, conspiracy theories, he's Alex Jones, talk of violent action against the U.S. government, and occasional financial duress. Curious. Still, thanks to an unflinching allegiance from, they try to throw Trump in here. Anytime they get a chance to throw Trump through the dirt, that boy getting thrown through the dirt. Wowzer. Majewski once painted a massive Trump mural on his lawn. We're a real nut. He also stands a chance of defeating longtime Democrat Representative Marcy Kaptur in blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear the rest. Long story short, this guy tends to lie and exaggerate, and he's a Trump supporter, and this liberal news outlet is trying to point out that, hey, all these guys are bad. Understandable. Certainly this guy's a liar. No doubt about that. We're on to the next piece of news. You caught up? Yeah. Fantastic. Saudi Arabia plans to send a female astronaut to space in 2023. I personally find this to be despicable, and I've spoken against the Saudi royal family in the past, and I probably should stop that before they catch me slipping, actually, because they will send an assassin out to anywhere. They actually sent one to the UK and took somebody out in real life. So I better cool it until I get the assassin security set up, you dig? But they are bad representatives of Islam.
Walton is back with some more MDB label purchase.
Okay.
He got the bright green beanie that I really like.
I got that one.
With the
okay.
green MDB label.
Clean.
Then he got the shirt that you're wearing.
And you know that bright green beanie is called, I think we call it acid wash green. And the thread on that one I personally selected because it has a nice bright glimmer to it. And at the end of the day, you know, we got to get our shine on, man. You got to stand out in this world. Anyway, Saudi Arabia, this is supposed to be like the, what Jerusalem is to Christianity and Judaism. Saudi is supposed to be a holy land, Mecca, the Kaaba, and all these important things. And the leaders are supposed to be the beacons of the deen of Sunni Islam. But last I checked, they just like to drive Lambos and buy properties in Western Europe and France and the UK and live like playboys. And I might actually be one of their heroes, actually. Dubai. This news comes from Dubai.
Before you start, Michael said, where did you get the chain from? I know the person's on here, so.
Yeah, shout out to Daniel John. He's one of the many saints who have had a consultation, and out of his consultations, which he's had a number of them, comes great products like this, which is coming soon. And this chain is super cool because what you didn't know is there's a QR code on the back. And so you'll be able to scan that QR code. And what I like about any good product is that it has that social relevance, in as much as, in this case, a part of the proceeds are going to cancer research. So that's one thing that makes it socially relevant. But even more than that, imagine you're out and a shorty says, oh, that chain is clean. You're like, yeah, indeed it is. But hey, baby, go ahead, scan that QR code for your boy. First off, she's going to be tripped out that there's even a QR code actually etched into the gold. So it's a really cool product. Shout out to Daniel John. Put the link in there if anyone wants to get their consultation, get their money game up. Just had a great consultation earlier today with a young man in Virginia.
We have Aiden said, digging these consistent current event live streams, they've enriched my perspectives many times over. Peace to the saints.
This is the kind of stuff that is going to take you to the next level. Number one, you'll truly understand how big the world is. You'll understand that there are other cultures and other life ways. You'll be a more sophisticated person, and you'll certainly be more savvy financially. You'll be able to see what is on the horizon in the world and in terms of economics. Dubai.
King Kirk said, peace to the saints. I was working during the assassin security meeting. Is there any way for me to get more information about that?
Yeah, send me a DM on IG, and what I'll do is we did start recording late, but I will get that recording for you and I'll make it available. It was a really productive meeting, so I'll share that with you all. Saudi said Thursday it will launch a training program with the goal of sending its own astronauts, including women, into space next year. I always question space programs because, I wonder about the good use of taxpayer dollars. Certainly, most governments use their space program as a component of their military program. They put satellites out to gather aerial intelligence. In some cases, they use it to enhance telecommunications. So these are things that, for the most part, are above the understanding of the average citizen, understandably so. I think that Saudi is always doing a PR campaign in that they're trying to portray themselves as more westernized than they may be. And in some cases, they are accepting Western ideology into their society, which is not a good idea, for much of the West is in decline. And it shows also that they're diverging from the straight path, which is the deen of Islam. And if you are a Saudi leader, you're portraying yourself as a religious person. And I don't believe that many of them practice religion at any significant level. And yes, I do personally know individuals who work within the Saudi, who serve the Saudi royal family, actually 2 different individuals. And I'm not saying they've said anything negative about the family. The kingdom is actively promoting science and technology as part of its wide-ranging Vision 2030 plan to overhaul its economy and reduce its dependency on oil. Well, remember, saints, that any nation state, their greatest wealth is the education of their people. There are some states in Northern Europe where the people are very well educated, highly technical. One of the states I really admire that doesn't get talked about enough, I think they have some really intelligent programs, is Latvia. And also Ukraine has fairly good engineers. Probably not that many after this, but yes, they've had pretty good engineers. And that allows them to work remotely, get work from around the world, and command a decent income. The plan, championed by Saudi Arabia's powerful crown prince Mohammed bin Salman, and this guy is controversial and intelligent, also calls for greater integration of women into the workforce. I was just talking about this in my personal life earlier today. Integrating women into the workforce is something I think I may do a whole separate live on. I'm going to put a poll on YouTube right now because I think that this is something that is not good. And I'm not even saying this from a religious standpoint because I'm not a religious man. I just follow this Marquettism. You dig? So let me pop up this poll. Should I do a live on if women should be in the workplace with men. And I know a lot of y'all like, wait, what? Quad, for real? Yeah, that's how I feel. Yes.
While you're putting the poll up, Billy Bob said, "Peace to the Saints. When will that shirt be restocked in a large, Saint?"
This shirt I'm wearing?
I don't know. I don't know if he's talking about the one that was sold out.
Well, that's not a shirt. That's a jacket. If you're talking about the Letterman jacket being restocked in a large, the blue one, it will probably not be restocked at all. That was a brief collaboration. The gray one should be available in large. If you want the gray Letterman jacket, you can get that one at sasmbrand.com. Can you find the link for them and drop that in the chat? Okay. There we go. Back to this information on Saudi. You caught up?
Yes.
So Mohammed bin Salman is going to integrate women into the workforce of the conservative Muslim country. Well, how conservative are they and how Muslim are they? Truth be told, that's redundant to say conservative Muslim. There is no such thing as a Muslim who is not conservative when you compare it to what is prevalent in the world culture. So that is just redundant, number one. And then number two, if you're integrating women, you're not being conservative, you're not being Islamic, because truth be told, it is not halal for women to be without their protector, their wali, their father or their brother in the midst of men, potentially one-on-one, when that male is of the age where they could possibly take advantage of the woman or just engage consensually with the woman. It is not proper. And whether you're talking about in the Islamic world or in the Western world, often when you have male and female together for long periods of time, it provides temptation. And so I'm staunchly against it.
Caleb, who ordered the shirt you're wearing, sent a size change request, and we got that taken care of, Caleb.
You fixed it.
I fixed it. So
mute me real quick. Great. Fantastic. You're all set, Caleb. And thank you for being prompt about that.
Yeah, because once it ships, we can't change that.
That's right. You're caught up?
Billy Bob said the shirt you have on now, so I don't know if the size large is sold
Oh,
out.
damn. Did that joint sell out? Man, they get like that. Wow, that's crazy. Wow. That hurts my heart. Check on that for me. Okay. Nah, I hope this didn't sell out because this one, I like this one. I can't, and I try not to be vain, but, every time I put on a piece of drip like this, that's a unique piece. I got to go out, hear me, see what the people got to say.
And people always have stuff to say.
Indeed, they do. Indeed.
While I'm looking for that, we have Jay Marco said, "Peace to the Saints."
Peace to the Saints. Shout out to Jay Marco. And so Mohammed bin Salman is trying to integrate women into the workforce, which I highly disagree with. I might even do a video on that. I might have to do one on that. Let me write that down. So much evil in the world.
The size large is sold out in the shirt that you are wearing right now.
Well, y'all better hurry up then, see? Oh, and shout out to Marcos, you dig? Shout out to Marcos Hurtado. You can get this at sasmbrand.com. You heard me? When you on that player level, you just pull your pen out of case, like so.
Kate, Rob said, while on the topic of women in the workplace, you heard of the Celtics head coach, Udoka?
Yeah, whatever his name is, yeah.
Losing his year earnings due to him smashing
Oh, they took all his bread for that? Oh, heck no. Number one, I have never experienced some vagina that was worth any amount of money, like any amount. So that's crazy that he went ahead and took on that kind of risk. Not crazy. It was foolish and it was immature. And it was, he was clearly led by the flesh. I'm sorry to hear that he did that, but it also lets you know what position you rank at. You're not a boss when people can just reach out and take your earnings like that. And that is wicked because, we're in a situation where you have government legislating morality. If this guy would like to be a dirtbag, cheat on his wife, ruin other people's relationships and be improper in the workplace, it should be up to the Celtics to fire him, but not to take the money that he's already earned. Now, in terms of stopping his future earnings, that's up to them.
Carlos just got the gray Letterman.
Shout out to Carlos, smart man. Let me check on this poll, see what the people is talking about. Boy, I tell you, and the challenge, we have all these religions, but none of them seem to be effective at getting people to behave well. And that's why, when we're spreading this ism, we're spreading a secular morality, something that you can follow if you're a Christian, a Muslim, or an atheist, something to improve conduct. Okay, so they said we should talk about women in the workplace. Okay, yes, so we shall. Okay, you caught up?
I am.
Carrying on. This boy. So Mohammed bin Salman is basically going against every religious scholar ever. Okay, cool. Saudi Arabia lifted a long-standing ban on women driving in 2018. And this is just one step toward destruction. Not that I don't want a shorty to be able to get to the grocery store. I really do want her to be able to run that mission. But the truth is, once you give a certain freedom in their context, you can't take it back. You can't pull it back. And also, oppositely, in America, once they take a freedom, we never get it back. Now, I was just recently in Europe, and the psychopaths in Germany with Condor Airlines, they had us wearing COVID masks while we're on the airplane. I was like, so you let us sit in the lounge next to each other, crowded with no mask, but now we're on the airplane, we got to wear a mask. Complete idiocy. Anyways, carrying on. So this guy is having all these reforms in Saudi. I'm surprised he's still alive. He must have great security. Quote, the Saudi astronaut program, which is an integral part of the kingdom's ambitious Vision 2030, will send Saudi astronauts into space to help better serve humanity. What does that mean? That's a hunk of garbage. And it's unlikely that program is really aimed at serving humanity. I thought maybe if you serve some free meals, that might serve humanity. If you stop driving proxy wars, that might serve humanity. Quote, one of the astronauts will be a Saudi woman whose mission to space will represent a historical first for the kingdom, end quote. I'm tired of these earmarked demographic firsts that people are promoting. Oh, we're going to have a black guy do this. We're going to have a black woman do that. We're going to have a Saudi woman do this. We're going to have a hijabi do this. Send the gay guy in. We need to send the person who's most talented and knowledgeable. Oh, we in dark times.
Joe sent $50.
Baller alert.
He said, peace to the saints, great content.
Peace to the saints. I appreciate that, Joe. The first Arab or Muslim to travel to space was Saudi Arabia's Prince Sultan bin Salman, a half-brother of the Crown Prince and an Air Force pilot who was part of the 7-member crew of NASA. It's funny how one of the royals got to go, one of the royals, which generally I find that the concept of royal families is a broken concept because, as I've stated previously, lightning rarely strikes twice in the same place, which is to express if you have an emperor or a man who rises based on his merits and assumes power as a monarch, it's unlikely that his child who's grown up in wealth, opulence, and ease is going to be of the same caliber. Hence, the royal family concept probably should not exist. And certainly in this case, this family is quite... they got divorces. They got all kinds of things going on in that family. Sex parties, sexcapades, the kind of opulence you would expect to see from, an upstart billionaire from America. These guys are not living in the way that Islam dictates, which is about modesty. Now, you might say, Marquette, you ain't modest. I know. I'm the mariachi pimpin'. That's why you might see your boy dripped in gold like the pharaohs. But I never claimed to be a religious Saudi. Now, did I?
Kevin is back on Cash App. He said Saudi Arabia will ship prostitutes to the moon.
Lord, and the funny thing, I move around the world, and when I was in Dubai, which I've been there a ton of times, I hear so much about the perverse activities that go on. A lot of these fellas from the Middle East, the well-to-do, they come there, and it's a dark kind of playground. And they also go to Thailand to indulge some of their shall we say, less halal instincts, things that are very vile and grotesque. And just side note, I recently learned the statistic that the highest number of trans individuals live in the United States, Brazil, Thailand, and the Philippines. Certainly places I'm taking off of my travel list, you dig. I was tempted to go to the Philippines because the people seem so friendly. Now I feel like I might as well just skip.
Case Armando said, any empowerment move to break gender stereotypes always seems to be some dumb-ish to me from people who don't see the whole picture or broke.
Indeed, they're short-term thinkers. And it is a sad thing.
Xavier sent tuition.
Shout out to Xavier. Okay, so enough of this Saudi stuff. They're disappointing. Now we're on to the business news. Over 1 million Teslas recalled because of Windows pinching fingers. Now, this is the kind of news when you hear it, you should say, oh, well, what can I do with that? When you have a company like Tesla that's very strong, cultivates the media very well, is popular, their stock price is certainly inflated always. And that's fine if you already own some. If you don't own some, there's situations like this when they have to do a major recall, or there's a major scandal, or there's cooking of their books, or something goes wrong, their stock price is going to take a dip, a temporary dip. And that's when you buy the dip. I like to see it dip more than 20% in 24 hours. That's when I want to buy it. You feel me? But Tesla has been a very strong, innovative company. And let's hear about why they're recalling all these vehicles. Quote, Tesla is recalling nearly 1.1 million vehicles in the United States because the windows can pinch a person's fingers when being rolled up. Now, this is what I'm wondering, because you have a window, you might put your arm on it, but when the window starts moving up, you're going to move your arm. So where is it pinching your fingers? I'm having trouble visualizing that.
Alaric sent a cash app.
Shout out to Alaric. He's very consistent. In fact, I think he might have even came in offline for some game that he appreciated. So we do appreciate that support. Tesla says in documents posted Thursday by U.S. safety regulators that the automatic window reversal system may not react correctly after detecting an obstruction. I see. So basically, if you're too foolish and dim-witted to notice that the window's about to close, it'll close and crush your fingers. So they use the euphemism of pinch your fingers. No, it's not about to pinch your fingers. You're about to be Captain Hook dealing with these Teslas. So that's why they're recalling it. It's funny how they use all of these words to be nice and play nice. So clearly AP News wrote this article in a way that's favorable to Tesla, because we're not talking about pinching. If the mechanism that detects that there's an obstruction is not working, it's not going to pinch your fingers. It's going to crush them. Now it makes sense. And this is the kind of disgusting journalism that we have to deal with, where you actually are not fully understanding what should be communicated because they're playing nice for whatever reason. And this is how we see that the media has very much so been compromised. Very sad. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says that the violation of federal safety standards for power windows says it is a violation. An online software update will fix the program, Tesla says. This is one of the reasons I like antique automobiles. They don't do too much thinking for you. The recall covers certain 2017 to 2022 Model 3 sedans. So that's quite a range. No wonder it's 1.1 million vehicles. They've named some other models. I don't drive Tesla, so I don't really care. But there you go. Essentially, watch your fingers. You will end up without them. Now, you might say, Rosh Hashanah, Marquette, I've heard of Rosh Hashanah. Is that an African-American young lady? No, Rosh Hashanah is not a black woman from Compton. Rosh Hashanah is a Jewish holiday.
Okay, Zanaria sent tuition.
Shout out to Zanaria. Man, has the most player hair I've seen with an assassin. If I ever was blessed with some hair, I might do mine like that. You dig? And then play the Bee Gees everywhere I went. Might have to wear bell bottoms just to, with the vibe. Keep the vibe going. Ha, 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 staying alive. You could tell by the way I walk. You know that one?
Yeah.
You ain't gonna back me up though, huh? You just gonna leave me out there?
Yeah.
The Bee Gees was a group. I can't just sing it by myself. Okay, forget you then. I thought we was deep. Rosh Hashanah 2022. What should you know about the Jewish New Year? Well, hey, you guys have probably already learned something. You didn't know it was a Jewish New Year. Now you know. Jews from across the world will be celebrating Rosh Hashanah this evening. And that's two words, in case you were wondering. First word is Rosh, R-O-S-H, and the second word is Hashanah. Also known as the Jewish New Year, is one of Judaism's holiest days. Okay, all right, that I didn't know. It begins on the first day of Tishri, the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar. Shout out to the people who have their own calendars. You dig? That's boss stuff. It also marks the start of year 5,783. I bet you didn't know that was the year. You thought it was 2022, you goofball. 5,783 in the Jewish calendar. The old-time holiday is an occasion for reflection. I like to reflect. That's a good thing. And it's often celebrated with prayer. This makes sense for a religion. Symbolic foods. I don't like my food symbolic. I just like to eat them. And blowing of a traditional horn called a shofar. Music is good. In fact, we need more music in the Sasson. Rosh Hashanah begins at sundown this evening and continues through Tuesday evening. The Jews I know have long holidays. I think it's only outside of America. Outside of America, there's a lot of long holidays. In America, we try to keep them brief because we used to respect business. You heard me? You got to get back to work. The date varies every year since it's based on the Hebrew calendar. God, see, maybe that's why I'm not a Jew. It's too hard to keep up with the holidays. I need simplicity. Here's everything you need to know about the holiday. Number one, what is Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah means head of the year, first of the year, according to Judaism 101, which is the holiday which is referred to as a Jewish New Year. Rosh Hashanah traditionally calls on people to consider how they might have failed or fallen short in the past year. I like this. This is what I think birthdays should be, right? When your birthday comes up, you should use that as an opportunity to ask, up to this year, what have I done in the past year? Instead, harlots just use it as an occasion to take some Instagram photos with that sash and those two golden balloons that say 23 or 32, whatever it ends up being. And then they go to Vegas and get plastered and expect everyone to be hyper focused on them, which doesn't make that any different than any other day because all of them are narcissistic me monsters. I guess they expect free stuff on their birthday is the main difference. They drive around in a car that has, here's my Venmo, send me a free drink because it's my birthday and I should get free stuff from you, even though you're a stranger. I'm a high-tech beggar. Anyways, I'm not going all the way through Rosh Hashanah. Long story short, it's a Jewish holiday. I'm guessing most of you are not Jewish. But now we have a sense and we can, do you say happy Rosh Hashanah? I feel like that should have been one of the basic things they stated in the holiday, how to greet someone who practices this,
I think you just say happy holiday.
Happy. How do they know that you're down? Like, what they up to, like, what's up.
I have one Jewish friend and she says happy holiday on Christmas and I say happy holiday on their major holidays.
I'm trying to say happy Rosh Hashanah.
Go for it.
Yeah. Are you funny?
Melvin just got the
Sup?
See ya. Melvin just got the gray jacket and I believe the supervillain sweatshirt.
I feel like I need that because I need that as a costume low key because every now and then I come on turned up. Those are those days where I come out here wilding and half the people I block are actual fans and end up doing it on accident. Anyways, Detroit historically has been an auto manufacturing hub in America. I don't know what they do now other than create abandoned houses, depressed real estate, and fat black women. I don't know what else they do in Detroit, but they still have the auto show, which is really cool. And I hope the city comes back to life. Detroit, Baltimore, and Cleveland are like clones of each other if you've ever been. Anyways, this stuff is really cool. And I think it's a little bit far off from being something you'll see in your daily life, which is, individual aircrafts. People using like personalized aircrafts. I think that's a bit far off. I was just recently looking at some of this stuff. One of the products that was showcased from a Japanese startup is basically a individual aircraft, but the price was $700,000. And I was thinking, you know what? I would buy it, except that it only flies for 40 minutes. And being that it only flies for 40 minutes, it's not worth $700,000 to me yet. Because I can't imagine doing a round trip that's less than 40 minutes total. So I think that this technology is still a bit far off. But once you find a viable company, you're going to want to buy some stock because this will be the next hot thing. And if the African states are intelligent, they would allow this stuff to be legal within their territories because certainly the West is going to outlaw this stuff until they get proper regulations, proper types of insurance for these kinds of things, and proper laws to assess who's at fault if you crash in the air, fall to the ground, and kill someone on the ground. There's a lot of liability that has to be assessed in a developed economy and country. And so if you're in an underdeveloped country, you'd be wise to say, hey, bring it here, do all the testing and development, and we'll lead the world in this.
John the Don said, do you respect Elon Musk? Do you believe he has humanity's best interest at heart? Will he be successful?
Do I respect Elon Musk? I respect all individuals, male and female, who have been very successful. It says something good about them. Do I respect him as a man? Not at all. His family is in decay and shambles. He also has a transgender child, which is a great failing. Would I ever consider trading my life for his? No, I think I'd probably rather die than that have that kind of disgrace associated with my name. It is truly low how he's been living and leading his family. He can't manage his own family, Can he manage the affairs of humankind? Absolutely not. I think it's one of the most insane concepts I've ever heard. He is not the Benjamin Franklin of our time. Benjamin Franklin was a remarkable man who brought like true innovation to the world. Elon Musk, I don't know that he's ever done anything that no one's done before. He did electric cars. Electric cars are actually fairly an old concept. He's doing space flight, which that's also a very old concept. He's improving. He's more like a Steve Jobs personality. And similarly, he's had turmoil in his personal relationships. And I think that speaks a lot about a man, how you can manage your children and your women. That is, manage home first before you try to save the world.
Will he be successful?
At what? No. Whatever the what is, no. Is he successful with Tesla? Very. That's dollars. At a certain point, dollars are irrelevant and they start to work against you. You heard me, people trying to steal from you, sue you, and all this other stuff. So, once you get comfortable, and he's very comfortable, it's a beautiful thing. But I think that he really needs to work on the psychological side of his life.
Alaric just got the shirt that you're wearing.
Shout out to Alaric. Apparently he doesn't wear size large, I'm guessing. Correct. Since that one was sold out. Okay. So the Detroit Auto Show, I'm going to take the photo off, but I think this stuff is really cool. And if you ever want to make money, you need to know that you want to be on the bleeding edge, which is to say like the newest stuff. That's where you make money. The newest stuff. The Detroit Auto Show has returned after a 3-year absence. Visitors to the prestigious North American International Auto Show, which kicked off last week, can lay eyes on the latest offerings from some of the world's biggest automakers. But this time around, you can also check out what's called the show above the show, the air mobility experience. See, that's a term you want to remember, air mobility experience, which shows demonstrations from 6 air mobility innovators representing 5 countries that include electric vehicle takeoff and landing aircraft, a hover bike, a hoverboard, and a jet suit. Now, of these things, I think the ones that will be most practical for the consumer market, meaning people will buy them, I think the jet suit is an obvious one because it'll be smaller. So I think that'll be a good one. The hoverboard, I don't think is ever going to take off because it's kind of like snowboarding. It's viewed as dangerous. It looks cool, but I don't think it's going to take off as well. Hover bike, I've seen these. They're quite large until they reduce them in size. I don't think they're going to do very well. I'd put my money on the jet suit first. Hopefully it doesn't have any like flames popping out the back of it, right? So anyways, John George writes that it feels like the future. Yeah, I still think it's quite far off because these things have very short flight time, which is their chief issue. If you were talking about a guy like Elon Musk, I think he would have been really smart if he was working on this, but that'd be a money play. I think he's making a play for legacy. He wants his name to go down in history. That's why he's doing the space stuff, the outer space stuff. I think he's beyond money, and it's easy to understand. I would be beyond money as well if I was in his position. But I think if you're after money, this is a very interesting, cool space. So do keep it on your mind, and hopefully you see your boy with a jet suit sometime soon. I'm rooting for these companies. You caught up? Oh, here's a nice piece of news right here from Arizona. And Arizona is an interesting state that borders Nevada, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, shout out. Shout out to my 4th grade geography teacher who taught me nothing, had to teach myself. Anyways, Arizona judge points out that the state can now enforce near total abortion ban. Beautiful thing. And then you have a picture of some woman protesting, and she writes, 70% of Americans support Roe versus Wade. We, the people, are the majority. Yeah, 70% of Americans support a lot of things that are not currently happening in the country. You dig? I think 70% of Americans would like Joe Biden to wake up while he's giving speeches, but instead he's been giving them while asleep, but it's okay. Anyways, Arizona can enforce a near total ban on abortions, which has been blocked for nearly half a century. A judge ruled Friday, meaning that clinics statewide have to stop providing procedures to avoid criminal charges, which is basically to say, if you're going around here like you're Jack Kevorkian, Dr. Doom, bodying these babies, you might just go to jail. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, this is one of those things where, you have the letter of law and then you have the enforcement of law. And often they're two different things.
Omar said, appreciate the game. Keep doing your thing. Peace to the saints.
Sir? Yes, sir. So this is one of those things where we're going to have to see how it turns out. Republican Attorney General Mark Brnovich who had urged the judge to lift the injunction so the ban could be enforced, cheered. So he got his way, and that's good. Good for him. Still, truth be told, even though I'm against abortion, not because of necessarily what it is, but because of what it opens up this promiscuity for the sexually liberated female, which I believe leads to much ill in society. And I don't promote promiscuity among the male either. But this is something we're going to have to see how it ends up getting enforced. And I think that Arizona, if they do enforce it, will be taking a leadership position in these United States of America. So we'll keep our eyes open. Here's a disturbing piece of news right here. Very disturbing for a number of reasons. Oh, now that I'm looking at the image, it's even more disturbing. Look at this. Oh, yucky.
Is this the one that was sent via PayPal?
Nah. Oh, we didn't even get into that one yet. Oh, stay tuned for that one. That's going to be a good one. Look at this. So apparently, it says, we got our miracle, freed Americans back home in Alabama. First off, is anybody ever celebrating to get back to Alabama? You really got to be from Alabama to be happy to be back in Alabama. That's strange. Moreover, just because he's Asian and she's white, I'm going to go ahead and assume that's not his mother. And I'm going to go ahead and ask myself, why is this chick wearing a kufi? And more importantly, what happened to this boy? Did they torture him over there? Because to be happy to come back home to her, you must have had some very unpleasant experiences. I'm going to go ahead and say those Russians are vicious and deadly, because I can't say I'd be happy to come back to her. Low key, go ahead.
Sean said, random question, are you a Myers-Briggs ENTJ?
That sounds really familiar. I might be, but I forget what the letters add up to. But what I do recall are the following two things. Number one, I did take the exam, and it gives you an archetype. And my archetype was general, like field general, and CEO. Which is pretty accurate. Then I took a more sophisticated psychological assessment, which is run by PI Mid-Atlantic Index. I did this when I was a part of a leadership team at Johns Hopkins Medical. And it basically gives you a couple archetypes, and then it gives you 3 graphs. And this is really important to understand about yourself. I already knew this, but it was good to see this defined objectively in data. Number one, it said you are represented by these 3 figures, Mother Teresa, Al Capone, and Adolf Hitler. I thought that was quite curious, because you would think Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler are quite opposite, but the idea is that they're all figures that are very bent on whatever their ideological goal is. In the case of Mother Teresa, it's to do good. In the case of Hitler, it's to do the opposite. And then you have a figure like Al Capone, which the idea is that rules and laws don't really matter to you. You're going to do what you're going to do based on your own individual morality. So rules and laws are more like guidelines, and you abide by them as you choose. And also, you're not somebody to play with, clearly. So I thought that was fascinating. Then they gave me 3 graphs, and here's what you should understand about yourself. As a human being, generally, you exist in 3 phases. And this is related to the work world. So it said, when you first come into a job interview, here's a graph of who you are. Then 6 months in, once you've gotten comfortable at your job, here's another graph of who you are, meaning how you behave and represent yourself. And then once you cannot be fired, you have tenure, here's a graph of who you are. And they do this with employees to let leadership know how you should expect this person to behave over time before you hire them. So in my case, the dots graph perfectly on top of each other. And the guy who was giving this presentation, he said, this is the first person I've ever personally graphed in 5 years who had his dots graph on top of each other. And what that means is that the guy you meet on the job interview, then the guy you meet 6 months later when he's comfortable in the job, and then the guy you meet when he can't be fired and he's going to do whatever he wants, that's the exact same person. He said, I never graphed anyone where their dots graphed perfectly on top of each other. And what that let me know is that, as I always remind you guys, I am who I say I am. And I'm the realest person on YouTube. And that's what it's always going to be. Carrying on.
Stephen pointed out you're probably not an ENTJ because the E is for extrovert, and he says that you say you're an introvert.
That's right. I'm a very competent extrovert, but I am indeed an introvert. I like to be alone.
Carry on.
So this is a piece of news which was very much so news to me, and is the most interesting piece of news. This is from Birmingham, Alabama, or shall we say it as the Americans say it, Birmingham, Alabama. I'm sweatier than a pig. 2 U.S. military veterans who disappeared 3 months ago while fighting with Ukrainian forces against Russia arrived home to Alabama on Saturday, greeted by hugs and cheers. Well, I'm disturbed. Number one, because we're not supposed to have active military combatants in Ukraine. That's number one. Number two, if we have active military combatants on the ground, then that is an act of war. I don't care who is doing double talk. That's an act of war. Number three, these are military combatants that were trained by the United States military. So they should take some responsibility for what these individuals are doing. And number four, I don't know why we're celebrating that they're back as though like these people are coming back as heroes or that Ukraine matters. It doesn't matter. It is not our strategic interest. And this is clearly an issue of poor leadership and even weaker geopolitical strategy that we're exhausting ourselves in this Ukraine crisis, which has turned into protracted war during a time of an ailing American economy. Very bad decision making. And if this sleepwalker they call Joe Biden ends up getting reelected, I will be outraged. And if they elect Kamala Harris, I'll be even more outraged because she is little more than a soccer mom. Completely dim-witted little basket case she is. In fact, there are probably some soccer moms who are a little bit sharper than she is. No disrespect to the soccer moms.
SB said Myers-Briggs is inaccurate because it focuses on describing letter dichotomy instead of the dynamics between cognitive functions.
Well, we did a PI Mid-Atlantic Index, and that's a good point. A young lady sent me the Myers-Briggs. You know, chicks always want to do this kind of thing. My business or the Johns Hopkins University used the PI Mid-Atlantic Index, which is a very expensive and sophisticated assessment. And in this case, they did it for free because they wanted to be able to say, the Johns Hopkins Medical Institutions, JHMI, are part of our client list. So they actually did it for free. But it was quite fascinating, and it's always good to learn about yourself. And of course, there's some things you'll never understand about yourself, but it's important to know what you don't know. Alex Druk, age 40, and Andy Hyun, age 27, I think Andy might be Korean by ancestry, had gone missing June 9th in the Kharkiv region of northeastern Ukraine near the Russian border. I'd be curious to see if this is actually a decent article to see if they explain how these fellas ended up there. Were they delivered there by the American government? Were they mercenaries? Were they paid security? Who are they? The Alabama residents were released as part of a prisoner exchange. Oh, my goodness. The pair had traveled to Ukraine on their own and bonded over their shared home state. Well, if they traveled on their own, were they friends before? One's 30, one's 40. Okay. It's them, a family member shouted as the pair appeared at the top of an escalator. Now, one thing I will say is, as a government, if I didn't send you abroad and you went there to fight as a hired killer in a conflict that you really have nothing to do with because you're not Ukrainian and you're not Russian and you have no strategic interest there, neither does your home country. So if you like to kill people for a pastime and you went over there on your own accord, I'm not about to trade one of my assets to get you back. That's bad government. That's bad business. You're basically trading something of value for something that has no value. Unless these were actually covert operatives, which they probably were. These were probably agents of the American military, which were sent over there to train, the Ukrainians. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And I'm also a bit shocked and surprised that this hasn't made a bigger news headline. And certainly if Putin were to attack the continental United States, we can't be surprised because clearly we're funding the war and we're sending soldiers, we're sending people to train, we're giving them weapons and spare parts, we're giving them aerial intelligence. We're basically fighting a war against the Russians. I mean, let's be real here. By real, I mean honest, which almost never happens. Very curious. Quote, there are prisoners of war who have been held for months and years. There are people who have been detained wrongfully for years. Oh, all this nonsense. You don't end up becoming a prisoner of war on accident, right? Like they never end up with like some ditzy white girl from Hollywood as a prisoner of war. No, you're a prisoner of war when you were in war, right? And war is the game of bloodshed. So for you to end up as a prisoner of war is actually a consideration because you could have ended up with a bullet in your head, little buddy. So this is basically a propaganda piece right here, and it's not accurate. It's terrible journalism. There's no intelligent context here. It's garbage, but it is good to be aware of. Carrying on. Now, this is interesting too. And the funny thing, shout out to the haters real quick. This is actually the same private jet that I was using in Europe right here. This is the same one. So it's essentially a 4-seater. Actually, it's not as nice. Maybe it's a bit of an older model, but whatever. It's government, right? So this article, so this woman here apparently is a government official in South Dakota, which again, I don't recommend women for being head of state or, too high up in leadership, especially in government. It is improper. I mean, just imagine, hey, war's broken out. Wake up. We gotta get to the war room. Hold on. I need to put on my makeup. Like, come on. Like, the priorities are never in order. Anyways, here we go. South Dakota, Governor Kristi Noem, and I'm not saying she's not smart and talented. I'm just saying she shouldn't be the governor, was returning from an official appearance in Rapid City. There's a place called Rapid City? That's okay. When she faced a decision overnight in the capital of Pierre, where another trip would start the next day, or head home to see her son attend high school prom. That's weird. Why do you need to see your son attend high school prom? Are you going to be at the prom? Do they mean like see him off to the prom? Maybe that's what they mean. So basically the duties of a mother. Are you going to prioritize the duties of a mother or the duties of state? I think we all know dad is about to prioritize work, even if your job is not that important. And that's appropriate. Dad prioritizes work, mother prioritizes the children. This is actually the natural order of things for healthy human beings. The Republican governor chose the latter, a decision that eventually cost taxpayers $3,700 when the state airplane dropped her off near her home and then returned the next day to pick her up. First off, $3,700 is not a ton of money, but when you're spending other people's money, it feels like a lot more. And do I, as a taxpayer, want to pay for you to visit your son and spend that 10 minutes before he goes off the prom? No, I don't. That's why I would have hired a man to do the job of governor. His priorities are straight. It's one of several trips that year where Noem, a potential 2024 White House contender. Wait, what? This woman is about to run for president? Is that what they're saying? I'm done. I go through torture doing these segments sometimes, saints. This is sacrifice to have to read about this sickness in the world. The only thing that makes me feel better is that we're doing something to counter it. The woman's priority is to go back to see her son go off to prom, even though she's governor of many, using other people's money when she could have used her money because that's a personal affair. Go ahead, Jordan. She said men prioritize work for their children. Ooh, talk to me. Shout out to the lady saints. That is actual and factual. It's one of several trips that she's taken. The trip sparked a complaint to the state ethics board, which has referred the matter to the state division. Long story short, she's under fire for it, and I'm happy she is. And even if a man did this, I would be just as angry. I'm actually less angry because it was a woman and it's her natural instinct. But the problem is that she's living in conflict. She knows good and well she's kind of like outside of what she should be. And following her nature while operating in the role of a man is getting her in trouble. Here's the most interesting and entertaining piece of news we have right here. And you got to see this one. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share this one. This is news to me as well. Shout out to Ramsey, who sent this one in via PayPal. This is wild. This is almost unbelievable. This is one of those things you see in a tabloid magazine and think it's fake. But apparently it is real.
Before you carry on, Michael said, how can we get that chain? Do you know when they will be available?
Daniel, if you're still on, feel free to let the people know when these are dropping, because the people want to know. So this headline from Fox News is trans, and by trans, I mean transvestite. Trans teacher wears obscene prosthetic breasts. By prosthetic, I'm assuming that these are removable, like these are foreign objects. The person did not get implants within their body. They've just attached this to their body. Which just makes their appearance look even more clownish, ridiculous, and frankly, scary. They look like scary clowns to me. What can you do? Anyways, let's roll that footage. And shout out to Tucker Carlson. He's insightful and funny every now and then.
So this week, videos surfaced on the internet from a place called Trafalgar High School in Oakville, Ontario. That's right across the lake from Niagara Falls. These videos show a teacher called Stephen Hanna, who apparently...
Oh, the teacher's name is Stephen Hanna. Say it ain't so. That ain't right. Number one, my first thought when I was looking, I was like, if that was a real female and those juggies were real, I would be like, ding, I'm about to fail this whole class because ding, I'm about to fail this whole class because I can't do math because ding. But those are fake juggies and I'd be completely disturbed and I'm going to fail the class for a different reason because I'm terrified. A psychopath is teaching the class. Here we are. And they didn't even change their name to Stevina, Stevisha. They just said, yeah, I'm Steve. And these juggies are fake. But I put them on every day just like you put that hat on. And I'm proud. Say it loud. I'm trans and I'm proud.
Apparently he's been employed at Trafalgar High for several years. Recently, Hannah decided to dress like a woman, or more precisely, as a grotesque caricature of a woman, not a real woman, but a kind of pneumatically inflated Marilyn Monroe lookalike.
Wow.
As part of his costume, Hannah strapped on a pair of gigantic prosthetic breasts, each the size of a...
No, this guy's ridiculous. He still got them big shoulders, though. He still got them big shoulders and the man legs. And I'm also tripping because if you're at work in the capacity of a teacher in presumably a public school, why are you wearing spandex shorts? Like, why are you wearing biker shorts at school as a teacher? Like, I'm tripped out. Like, I feel like that alone could have got you like, hey, we're going to give you a couple of days of leave so you can ponder on appropriate attire. I mean, that's weird. I think a normal female probably would have gotten penalized, especially if she's thick, for wearing biker shorts at your job. And is this woodshop class? It looked like she was like cutting some, did I say she? My fault. Twilight Zone moment. The individual appeared to be cutting some wood or something. That's ironic that they were cutting wood because this individual's probably cut their wood. Wow. Carrying on.
10-pound watermelon. We're not exaggerating here. They're visible from at least 100 yards away, if not from space. We'll show you the picture we are right now on the screen.
Wow. Wow, it was real. It was real. That's wild right there. That's wild. I'm going to go ahead and say it. That was crazy. And that's quite disturbing. Let me see if there's anything else that wasn't mentioned in that little snippet. A Canadian school board is standing behind. Oh, my goodness. Oh, this is in Canada. This is in fake America. They're lost. The Canadians are lost. I don't care how you slice it. The Canadians are lost. I mean, they basically live in a liberal dictatorship over there. They are lost. So I'm not shocked. This is in Canada. Okay, little fake America. Canada is an example of what would happen in America if all of America was San Francisco. If all of America was California, that's Canada. Anyways, a Canadian school board is standing behind they call it a trans teacher, but basically a grown man parading around as a woman who sparked protests turning up to class with clownish giant prosthetic breasts. Oh my goodness. Oh no, I saw a picture. Oh, here's a picture. This is insane. Look at this picture. No, this is like a, wow, this picture is like, see, I'm not into anime, but I feel like this is like anime type stuff right here. I don't even know if I could show this picture because it seems like pornographic in nature. Like, nah, this is not cool. This is not cool. Do you know how quickly I would have pulled my kids out of this school? Do you know how quickly? Lord, we got to open up a school. We got to open up a private school because it's outrageous. This is insane. And then, this individual has a nerve to wear a COVID mask. They went ahead and they matched the COVID mask to their shirt color. That's cute. And the funny thing too about it is that the COVID mask does a lot of concealing because with the COVID mask on, the individual almost looks like a female, almost, right? Oh boy, this is wild. Look, my grandmother, when I was young, every now and then she'd hear about something and she would say, oh, Jesus is coming back. Lord, Jesus is coming back, which basically I think meant that the apocalypse was about to happen because there's just too much evil on the planet Earth. And I'm starting to feel the same way. You heard me. It's down bad right now. Good Lord. That is a true nut. And it's sad that other nuts are supporting this nut. Mental health and people who are saying there's so few of us left. We must stick together and we must fight together because this is not healthy. Your kid will grow up mentally unwell, being taught and nourished by this kind of personality. Yeah, that's what grandma used to say. The last days. Lord, we in the last days. Lord, take me now, Jesus. Take me now. That's what it's wild. Saints, I'll give you a little bit of time to send in your thoughts, questions, comments as we wind down. That is crazy. Wow. And that's why I encourage all of you and I welcome all of you in Saint City. You know, if you come out to Saint City, we want you to be a part of this community. We want to live among great men and have great families because this kind of filth is just, it's hard to combat it when you have a kid in this school and then the school board is saying it's okay when it's not okay. And then you feel like a minority when really you should be the majority being normal, but being normal is actually increasingly rare. It's increasingly rare that we're mentally sane. It's increasingly rare that we're doing the right things. And that's why we need to come together.
Sardi Start Element sent tuition, and he said, "Hi, Marquette. Training camp is coming to an end. You were an important piece. Peace to the Saints."
Peace to the Saints. Very good to hear. I trust that it was very rigorous. And shout out to Charlie if you're ever in the Pennsylvania area. He has a great gym over there that you absolutely should check out. Very motivational. And he also has content on YouTube, which is delivered in one of the most unique ways I've seen.
Akeem said, "I heard Canada and a handful of other countries have legalized euthanasia, assisted suicide. The West is down bad, Saint."
Okay. I didn't know that about Canada. Saints, let us end with our tradition, the Creed of the Assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The Creed of the Assassin. I am going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable. And I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the Saints.